Hi, this is FM Walter Okas from the Wise Fifth Chess Academy, and today we're going to be having an entertaining session of how the game of chess is played. We're going to learn the very basics of how the pieces move, how the board position is set up, and this will hopefully give you a nice picture of how the game of chess is played. And we will dive directly into it. I'm just going to show you what these pieces are and what they represent. Chess is a game of strategy and a game of war, and you'll see that white will attack black and black will fight back and try to counter-attack against the white pieces. And so this means that one of the players has to find a way, a calculative way to win the game. But before we go into all that nitty-gritty, let us learn the basics. Now, this piece that you see, this one that you see at the very front, highlighted in green, those 8 little pieces there are called the pawns. Notice that white also has 8 pawns, and you see the way they are arranged in the starting position. Notice that white pieces are on the 1 and 2 ranks, and the black pieces are on the 7 and 8 ranks. So you find these are the pawns, and then we have the major pieces at the bottom. I'll just remove these arrows. The major pieces at the bottom are called the rook. There is a knight. So this is the rook, which I've highlighted in green, and you'll see that black has 2 rooks. White also has 2 rooks, and I've just again highlighted them in green there for you to see. Now the rooks move in vertical and horizontal squares, any number of steps. You can see from the arrows, 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, as many steps as long as they are not blockaded by their own piece. And if they are to move multiple steps, they can actually capture a piece like this one, an opposing piece like this pawn. So that is how the rooks move. The knights move in a very interesting way. Let me just take out these arrows and just remove everything. So the knights move in a very interesting way, and I'm just going to show you how they do that. They move in an L-shaped format. And you're just going to see how that exactly works. So you can see an L-shaped format like this, another L-shaped format like this, and another L-shaped format here that of course you cannot move to because you have your own piece covering that square. So you have knight to this position where it formed an L, knight to this other position forming an L, and this other position. Now to demonstrate this, I'm just going to play a few pieces like knight again moving in an L, and I choose to play it in that square. So when I play it there, I'm just going to play the opposing knight, let's say this other one, also moving in an L format, knight to there, and now I want to show you the more options that the knight can have. So knight moving in the smallest L that is possible, that is one of them. Another L here possible, another L here possible, another L here possible, and of course others where actually are illegal, where the knight actually can't move because there are other pieces that actually exist, and I'm going to show you those squares where you cannot actually move the knight because there's a piece that is seated there. So the knight moves in an L format in all directions. You can see it has the possibility of 8 squares in this current position where it is. I'm going to take you to also look at the bishop. Now of course the bishop, it's difficult to show you how it moves without actually playing it. So if I play the pawn forward and maybe the opponent plays a knight, now we know how the knight moves in the L format. I'm going to be able to demonstrate how the bishop moves. So the bishop moves in the diagonals. Now notice that there's a black bishop and there's a white bishop. So this is the white bishop is the one seated in the white squares or in the white diagonals and moves only in the white diagonals any number of steps, and the black bishop is the one that moves in the black diagonals any number of steps, 1, 2, 3, and as many as are valid steps that are there in the position. So the bishop moves in diagonal also captures in the same way, and I'll just demonstrate that shortly when we start to play a basic game of chess. So now let's look at I think we're now looking at the queen. So I'm just going to make another random move. The pawn moves forward, another pawn moves forward, and then just to demonstrate how the king and queen move. So the king, if I move it 1 step forward, I'll be able to demonstrate better. So the king moves 1 step only. That's the only way it moves in every direction. So you can move forward, you can move right, you can move left. That should be 1 step. Okay. one step to the left, one step backwards, and also in the diagonals. So a king moves one step, in simple terms, every direction, forward, backwards, diagonally to the right, to the left, to the back, and to the left side, all directions, only one step. Now, as opposed to the king, which moves one step at a time, the queen, I'm just going to set it up in a position like here, and you'll be able to see how it moves. The queen moves exactly like the queen. The only difference is that it moves a multiple number of steps at a go. So it can move one step, it can move 3 steps, it can move 2 steps, it can move any number of steps at a go. That means it moves like the king, but moves in all directions, any number of steps. So that makes it easy. I hope we are understanding how this is. If you have any questions at some point in the session, feel free to ask, and we shall be able to help you to master how these pieces move. So we have walked through how the pieces move, and the only pieces that we haven't really looked at is the pawn. Now, the pawn at the beginning stage can move, well, basically pawns move on a one step at a time, forward, forward, and forward, and forward. However, when they are capturing, they capture in the diagonals, and I'm going to highlight that in blue. This is how they capture. Their normal motion, and I'm going to put it in yellow, is forward, one step at a time. But the section in blue is if there's an opposing piece here. For example, if I place the red there, then the blue arrows will take action, and the pawn will capture in the diagonals. The pawn is the only piece that captures in a slightly different motion of its actual way of moving. All the other pieces, the knight, the bishop, the king, the queen, capture, and I think even the knight and the rook, all capture in the exact same model in which they actually move. So it's important to understand how that happens. Now, there's an exception here for the pawn. At the beginning of the game, the pawn is allowed to move 2 steps if it has never moved before. And you can see from the arrows here, it can either move here or there, if it has never moved from its starting square, which I'm again highlighting in yellow. Every other time that it moves, it will have to move 1 step at a time. But when it is capturing, again, like we said, it will capture in the diagonals, and I'm just going to set that in blue. I hope that is clear. It helps to, the arrows are there to help us to understand how this exactly works. And yeah. So what we're going to do is just we're going to walk through again very simply so that you can understand how the pieces move. Now, like I said, the pawn moves 1 or 2 steps. It has the exception of moving 2 steps at the beginning, and that's what we just mentioned last. So I'll play this pawn 2 steps. Black has the option of playing again either 1 step or 2 steps. I'll just play it 1 for now. I'll play the white pawn forward twice. Remember how the knight moves in the L formation, can move here or to here, but I'm going to choose to play it towards the center. I'm also going to play this knight towards the center. Again, remember the L formation. Then look at how the bishop moves. Oh, so it's black to play. Look at how the bishop moves. It moves in a long diagonal. We say it moves in the diagonals, doesn't change its color, and moves as many steps as is possible. So once you master how the bishop moves, then you can also know what kind of threats that it poses. For example, here now the bishop is actually directly attacking the queen. So it's important to see how the bishop moves and understand how exactly that happens. So now here we can play a bishop here to counteract this with this. So now from here we can understand that the bishops can attack each other and can create dangerous threats to themselves. So maybe here white can play a pawn. Again, you know, if you capture the bishop, then the pawn or the knight will recapture, because knights again move in the diagonals. Pawn also captures in the so knights move in the L-shaped formation, which means the knight is actually protecting the bishop, and this pawn is also attacking this bishop. So that is how the game of chess is played. Maybe I just want to demonstrate one thing. Maybe knight plays here, this pawn moves forward, and then maybe you can play your rook to g1. Don't forget that rooks move along the files and the ranks, which are the horizontal and vertical sections of the board. With that basic intro, I hope it has helped you to appreciate the game of chess, learn how the pieces have been played. Feel free to pause the video, take some time to understand how that happens, remind yourself of the things, and play through it again 1, 2, 3 more times so that you can master the concept. Thank you for listening in. If you have any comments, please leave them in the section. See you next week. with another powerful video on how to play the game of chess. Bye bye.